Now, Donald Trump is going to make his case on television later for his planned border wall. Whether or not to fund the wall is the issue holding up the passing of a government funding budget. A partial government shutdown is now in its 18th day. Trump's speech will be carried live by many US TV networks. Top Democrats have said it'll no doubt be, quote, full of malice and misinformation, and so they've demanded airtime to counter Trump's arguments. Let's go to Washington now and speak to our correspondent, Philip Crowther. Philip, this decision by major TV networks to carry Trump's speech live has sparked controversy.
Yes, it certainly has, and the result of which is, though, that all US networks and 24-hour news channels will be airing this address to the nation at 9 p.m. here local time. It's a prime-time address from the Oval Office. It's expected to be just 8 minutes long, according to the White House, but this is as formal as it gets in presidential history. An address from the Oval Office tends to be something that TV networks are expected to air live, and that's what they're doing in the end. But they will most likely all of them will be airing a response from Democrats, a little bit like a State of the Union address by a president, where there is also traditionally a response from Democratic leadership. That will be the case this time around as well. What we expect the president to do is talk about what this administration calls a crisis on the southern border, an immigration and humanitarian crisis that should lead to the construction of a wall between the United States and Mexico. So this will be the president's argumentation to get that wall built during this government shutdown, of course, that it's now in its third week. The president will want to convince as many of those who are against that building of a wall, and a large majority of Americans don't want that to happen. A majority of Americans also oppose the government shutdown and indeed believe that the president is at fault. So what he has to do is a big public relations exercise to convince, first of all, Americans, but also Democrats who he'll have to negotiate with to end this government shutdown. As part of this, the president will also be traveling to the border on Thursday to make his case there for a border wall and to convince Americans that there is indeed a crisis on the border, something that there isn't that much evidence for.
And Philip, tell us more then about this government shutdown, the second longest in US history.
Yeah, and it could be the longest one, of course, because we're really not seeing any headway here being made between the negotiating parties. Essentially, what they're doing right now is they're comparing notes. Democrats want to find out exactly what Republicans want and why, what the statistics are they're using to back this up. Essentially, it all comes down to what we've been talking about for a while now. The president wants a wall to be built. He wants enough money within a budget to be able to build at least part of a border wall between Mexico and the United States. Democrats, who of course now have the leadership in the House of Representatives, say simply they will not be giving up any money in a budget to reopen the government that would include any money to build that border wall between Mexico and the United States. So the situation here in the United States, and more than anything, of course, here in the US Capitol, is that there are still hundreds of thousands of federal employees who are either not going to work, have been told they are non-essential, aren't going to work and won't be paid until the government shutdown is over. Others have been told that they can go to work but are working without pay. So essentially what happens with the government shutdown in the end is there is back pay for federal employees. They will get that money in the end, but they're not receiving any paychecks right now. This, of course, has also led to national parks being closed in some cases, and all museums here in the US Capitol also being closed. Very visual examples of a government shutdown that doesn't look like it is going anywhere right now because of the president's insistence that he wants a wall built between Mexico and the United States.
All right. Well, thank you very much indeed for that update from Washington. Philip Crowther reporting.